inside of me and you. It's telling us that love is who I am. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Welcome to A Course of Love. I'm Earl Purdy. Welcome to A Course of Love. Welcome to A Course of Love. Now let's come together and understand that Christ was born inside of every man. He's waiting for us to choose him as ourselves. If you choose him, you know you choose me too. And everyone becomes a part of you. And then you know that love is who I am. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. You and I. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Welcome to A Course of Love. 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 I'm Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you to A Course of Love. I want you to know that you need not believe the ideas, you need not accept the ideas, you need not welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may find hard to believe and quite startling. But what you're going to find out is if you don't analyze the ideas and go deep into your being, deep into your heart, if you use the ideas, you will recognize that the ideas are true. If you use the ideas. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Oh yeah. Tell me, can you hear it? Can you hear this course of love? Can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. You and I are one. Oh, we are one. You and I are one. Yeah, we are one. You and I are one. Oh, we are one. I'm so glad that you and I are one. I am you. And you are me. And you are me. That's the truth. Hello, mighty companion. This is Earl Raj Purdy, and I'm glad to be here with my mighty companions and my mighty companion you this evening so that we can go deep into a course of love. Don't forget, we're live, and so here on Facebook, and so that means that we can communicate with each other, and we can communicate with each other in real time. So I really want to invite you to make comments. I really want you to know that I see your comments and that we need to feel the energy of each other. Please like this video. Please share this video. It doesn't take but a second to share a video, and it's right there at the comments section. So, mighty companions, tonight we're going to talk about we're going to be in chapter 7. And chapter 7 is an interesting title. Chapter 7 is in the first treatise, a treatise on the art of thought in A Course of Love. Chapter 7 is suffering and the new learning. Suffering and the new learning. It's on page 323. Yeah, it's on page 223. On page 223. Suffering and the new learning. Chapter 7, Suffering and the new learning. On page 223, in the Course of Love, the first treatise, a treatise on the art of thought. It's a pretty intense section. So let's just take a minute and just feel each other, because we are live. That means we can tune into our brothers and sisters. I want to feel you. I want to feel your presence. I want to know that there are other beings, other parts of myself that want to connect on a higher plane, that want to connect at a higher level, a more loving level, a level beyond the illusions of this world and what appears to be the suffering of this world. And I'm glad that you're here. Kim, I'm glad that you're here. CJ, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad all of you are coming online. Susan, Joe, Claire, Kathy, Mufasa, Susanna, Andrea, Kathy, Mark, Cheryl, Robert, all of you, everybody that's coming online right now. We always have a lot of beautiful, wonderful, mighty companions joining us here with A Course of Love. So let's go through, let's get started. Let's see what we're being told tonight from A Course of Love, okay? It says suffering is seen as a condition of this world, because the world is seen as a world in which who you are can never be accomplished. So there's a link between us thinking that we cannot accomplish who we really are, and in seeing or thinking that we cannot accomplish what we really are. It says suffering is seen as a condition of this world. Why is suffering seen as a condition of this world? Because the world is seen as a world in which who you are can never be accomplished. What does that mean? It means you have perceived this inability. What inability? The inability to be who you really are, the accomplished. He says you have perceived this inability to be who you are in terms of not being able to do as you desire to do, live as you would desire to live, achieve as you would choose to achieve. So believing that I cannot be who I really am, the Course of Love is saying that we say that we're not able to be who we really are, but what we are really saying is I'm not able to do what I desire to do. I'm not able to live the way that I desire to live. I'm not able to achieve what I choose to achieve. So now I'm going to say I'm not really being who I really am. And that's not a correct perspective. That's a really interesting insight if you think about it, right, mighty companion? You know, okay, suffering is seen as a condition in which I think I can't really be who I really am. But the error that I'm making is that I think that means that I'm not able to do what I want to do, that I'm not able to live where I want to live, that I'm not able to achieve what I think I should be able to achieve. And A Course of Love says the true way in which to see this prerequisite to the condition of suffering is as the perceived inability to be who you truly are. And who you truly are is a being existing in union. So when A Course of Love talks about being who you truly are, it's talking about you being a being that exists in union. So let me get this straight. So when the Course of Love talks about me being able to accomplish who I really am and being the accomplished of who I really am, it's talking about me being a being that exists in union, a being that exists in union with you, and you being a being that exists in union to me. Being yourself has nothing to do with you being able to do whatever you desire to do. Being yourself has nothing to do with you living the way you desire to live. Being yourself has nothing to do with achievements in the world and trying to achieve what it is you want to achieve. Take away all of that for the moment. that you would strive to be. Okay, if you just were to let go of what it is you think you want in the world, if you were just to let go of what you think you want to achieve in the world, Earl, just for a moment, it says the feeling of not being able to be accomplished or complete will still be with you. Take away all for the moment that you would strive to be, and the feeling of not being able to be accomplished or complete will still be with you. In other words, recall the many times you felt certain that a particular achievement would complete you and take away your feelings of lack. Okay, so right now take a moment and think about all the times you were sure that if you could achieve something that you were trying to achieve, that you would finally be happy, that you would finally feel whole, and you would finally feel complete. Even the most successful among you have found that your worldly success has been unable to bring you the satisfaction and peace you desire. Think about it. What have you ever achieved in your life, in the world? What have you ever gotten in the world that satisfied you so much that you didn't want anything else in the world? That you had complete satisfaction, complete peace, and that complete satisfaction and that complete peace lasted. Even the most spiritual and godly among you, it says, even the most spiritual and godly among you accept suffering. Even those who understand as completely as possible the truth of who they are accept suffering. It says, my use of the word accept is important here, as these may not see suffering as pain, but only as a natural part of being human that calls for acceptance. So what does that mean? It means that there are some people that believe that it's just natural. It's just a natural part of being human that you suffer. There are people that believe that it's just natural, if you're a human being, that you're going to suffer. These people find peace within suffering rather than abolishing suffering. So there are some people that try to find peace within suffering. Hey, that's just the human condition. We're going to suffer. We're going to go through pain. We're going to go through disappointment. That's just a natural part of life. That's just a natural part of being in the body. That's just a natural part of being human. It seems like the course of love is telling us that no, our goal should be to abolish suffering. It should not be trying to have a state of mind that you can just accept suffering as just being a natural part of who you are and a natural part of what you go through. This acceptance is due to the belief that spirit has chosen a form, which means, more accurately, put a lesser form in which to exist, and that the choice includes the choice to suffer. So what is it talking about? Well, it's saying that there's some people that incorrectly believe that you are a spiritual being, and now you're in this lesser form, this human form that's a lesser form that we suffer in. And this belief may accept suffering as a learning device rather than a punishment, but it's still in its acceptance of a false notion. It's still in its acceptance of a false notion invites suffering. So let's go back. Okay, so there are some people that go through suffering, and they see suffering as just a learning device. So maybe I get to a level of consciousness that I no longer see suffering as God punishing me, but I do see suffering as a learning device. And so I'm still accepting a false notion, even if I focus on the idea of suffering being a learning device. That still invites suffering. So it's good if I can learn something from my suffering, but I should not necessarily see suffering as being necessary as a learning device, because if I see suffering as necessary as a learning device, I'm actually inviting suffering according to a course of love. According to ACOL, what I'm doing is inviting suffering by seeing suffering as a necessary learning device. I'm also inviting suffering if I see suffering as being a natural condition of being a human being. So when you think that suffering has to be used as a learning device, it says this belief accepts learning through contrast, that you look at things in terms of evil in relation to what's good. You look at things in terms of peace in relation to chaos. And you look at things in terms of love in relation to fear. This belief exists in the in-between. What does that mean? Well, it believes where on the one hand there's darkness, we also believe on the other hand there's light. one or the other must exist at a given time, but never both. So I believe I'm either in love, or I believe I'm either in fear. I believe I'm either in peace, or I believe I'm in conflict, but never both at the same time. And so that means the absence of good health is disease, the absence of peace is conflict, the absence of truth is illusion. This belief does not accept, when you think those things, this belief does not accept that there is only one reality, and that one reality must exist where you are. The truth is there is only one reality. The one reality is love, and that one reality exists exactly where you are, Earl. That one reality, do you know that the one reality, there is only one reality. There's not a reality of love and a reality of fear. There's not a reality of guilt and a reality of innocence. There's not a reality of lack and a reality of abundance. There is not a reality of light and a reality of darkness. There is only one reality according to A Course of Love. There is only one reality. And that one reality is love, that one reality is God, and that one reality exists exactly where you are. The one reality is exactly where you are. So just take a few seconds to be with that. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer to learn. Suffering does not have to just be a regular part of your existence just because you're a human being. Yes, you can learn through your suffering, but it isn't necessary to suffer to learn. There are not two realities. There is not a reality of love and a reality of fear. There's not a reality of happiness and a reality of unhappiness. There is only one reality. And that one reality, that one true existence is the existence of love. The one true existence is the existence of God. So, yes, Kathy, that's right. These are very interesting, very new and startling ideas on suffering. And yes, relax. God is here. God is here. So what are we going to do next? Well, it says in paragraph 3, we are moving you now away from all such beliefs. So what is the purpose of what we're doing this evening? We are moving away from all beliefs that suffering is necessary. Suffering can be the quickest way that people tend to move toward another way of doing things. So suffering can lead to a person really getting serious about their spiritual path and serious about waking up. But what the point is being made by love, the point that love is trying to make with us tonight is it's not necessary. It's not necessary for you to suffer. It is not necessary for you to be in pain in order to learn. So we have to move away from all such beliefs, and we're moving away from that belief to what? To a knowing that precludes the need for belief at all. So we want to go to a level of certainty of God, a level of certainty of love that precludes the need for us to believe anything, because belief is not certain. You can believe something and not be certain about it. You can believe something and it not be true knowledge. You can believe something and it not be the truth. So belief is basically an ego function. What you want to go to is you want to go beyond believing something to knowing it. And knowing is absolute certainty, complete certainty. So yes, I have said that contrast is a favorite teaching device of the Holy Spirit. The Course of Love says, yes, I have said that contrast is a favorite teaching device of the Holy Spirit. And who is the Holy Spirit? The Holy Spirit is the voice for the divine within us. It's the voice for God and the voice of God that's in each and every one of our beings. And in the past, we have learned through contrast. We have learned through opposites. But I have not yet said that the time of the Holy Spirit is ending, even though I have stated that the time of the second coming of Christ, which is the second coming of who we really are, is here. I have said that the time of the parables has ended. This is Jesus talking. The Course of Love is the voice of Jesus being channeled through Mari. Okay? It says, I have said that the time of parables has ended, and ask you not to look to those historical figures that taught you in such a way as your examples any longer. I have said a new way of learning is needed and a new way of learning is here. So what I'm sharing may resonate with some of you, and what I'm saying may not resonate with some of you at all. And that's okay. But what we're being told right now is that we need a new way of learning, and A Course of Love represents a new way of learning. A Course of Love represents a new way of learning. A new way of learning for some of us is needed. A new way of learning for some of us is here. So, he says to continue to rely on the ways of the old, to continue to do things the way that you've always done it, no matter how effective the old ways were, and no matter how much the old ways spoke the truth, will be to not learn the new. If you keep using the old ways to learn, that's not the same as learning the new way. So tonight is a very powerful time in our learning experience. We're being told right now that we're about to enter into a new way of learning, that a new way of learning is needed and a new way of learning is here, that it's not really smart to keep relying on the old ways of learning. No matter how effective the old ways of learning were, and no matter how much the old ways of learning spoke the truth, the old ways of learning will not be the new ways of learning. So what is that telling us? Well, it's telling us that you have advanced. Take a breath. You have advanced. You have advanced. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You have advanced. You have taken steps. You have climbed to a new level. Earl, you have advanced and you've climbed to a new level. Mighty companion, you have advanced. Hallelujah. Feel good about that. You have advanced. That means you have climbed to a new level. Yes, you. That's right. Yes, you. Yes, you, Kim. You have advanced. You have moved to a new level. So, what is climbing to a new level? Well, it says that basically you have acquired an ability to perceive differently. Advancing to a new level is acquiring an ability to perceive differently. Because why do you need to perceive differently? Because it's through perceiving differently that you make this new learning possible. So how do you make the new learning possible? You make the new learning possible by perceiving differently, being willing to see things differently from the way that you've seen things in the past, which is the same as saying you're willing to interpret things differently from the way that you've interpreted things in the past. So seeing things differently is the same as perceiving things differently, and perceiving things differently is the same as interpreting your experience differently. And interpreting your experience differently, that's what you have to do in order to allow new learning to become possible for you. Now, if you don't let what you have attained serve you, you will not realize what this new learning has been for. If you don't let what you have achieved serve you, you won't realize what this new learning has been for. In other words, you may reach an ideal of human satisfaction and happiness. You may use your old learning, and you may reach, and you may use your old ways of looking at things and your old ways of learning. And right now, you may have achieved a level of human happiness and a level of human satisfaction that is absolutely off the chain. You may have practiced spiritual truth and metaphysical truth and done your practices, and right now your human life is just better than you could have ever imagined your human life as being. But if you don't move to the next level of looking at things, if you don't learn a new way of looking at things, then you won't go beyond what is human. What? Uh-oh. Now let me hear that again. A Course of Love is telling us that it's time for you to go beyond looking at yourself as just human. It is really time to go beyond thinking of yourself as just a human being. It is time for you to go beyond seeing yourself as just a human being only. Earl, it is time for you to go beyond seeing yourself as a black man. It is time for you to go beyond seeing yourself as a human. You are more than human. This is pretty deep. You are more than human. And to go to the next level, you need to use a new learning so that you will go beyond the concept of yourself as being just a human being. So how do you go beyond looking at yourself as just a body, just a human being? Well, now we've got to start talking about being human in a new way. So how do we go beyond looking at ourselves as human? The way you go beyond looking at yourself as only human is to look at being human in a brand new way. We must reconcile the differences between being a human being and a divine being. We must, in other words, we must speak of incarnation. In other words, we have to speak of incarnation. That's what we need to speak of, is incarnation. So we move to chapter 8. Okay, chapter 8 is named Incarnation and Resurrection. Incarnation and Resurrection. See, let's see, I'm using my Kindle, so let me see what page that is in the actual book. It's now we're going to chapter 8, 225, on page 225. We're going to chapter 8 on page 225. And it's called Incarnation and Resurrection. Yes, you are more than a human being. You're much more than a human being. And right, Susan, I'm going to tell you. So I'm not putting being a human being down. I'm saying it's just time for us to go beyond that concept of ourselves. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, everybody's at different levels of awakening. Everyone is exactly where they need to be right now. I'll say that again. Everyone is exactly where they need to be to experience the maximum conditions and experiences for their own spiritual awakening. So your friends, your relatives, the people you see on TV, everyone in this world, they are exactly where they need to be in their path and on their path of awakening. It's very important that I get to the point that I understand there is a divine plan and everyone is exactly where they need to be, receiving exactly the lessons that they need to receive. And if it's something that I'm supposed to do, the Holy Spirit, my true self, the Christ within me, the divine being that I am, will tell me exactly what I need to do. So some of us are at the point that we are ready to go beyond the concept of ourselves as being bodies. And some of us are at the point that we are ready to go beyond the concept of ourselves as only being just human beings. So to many people that would be tuning into this and many people that would be listening to me, they would be going, what the hell is he talking about? That's some crazy stuff that he's talking. And the people that's listening to him must be crazy too. That's okay. There are parts of ourselves, there are some of our brothers and sisters that are completely conditioned to believe that they are their egos, that they are just the separate human, physical concept of themselves that they have, and they're totally innocent, and that's okay, and I don't care what they think about me. Okay? And you have to not care what they think about you. Because something that you were saying, a 6th grader would not understand things that a 12th grader would be talking about. But that doesn't negate the validity of the 12th grader, and it doesn't negate the 6th grader. The 6th grader will one day themselves be a 12th grader. So I'm not putting anybody down by using this comparison. I'm just saying that all of us are not at the same level of awakening within the illusion of time. So some of us are ready to go beyond the conventional ways of looking at ourselves. And the purpose of A Course of Love and the purpose of what I'm doing is to speak to those of us who are going to another level of spiritual maturity. A level that is not all about power, money, fame, specialness, and physical pleasure. That we don't get up every day and we're just thinking about what we can accomplish outwardly in the world anymore. And that's not putting down people who still want to primarily accomplish things outwardly in the world. But we also realize that that's also why many people go through so much suffering. Because they're trying to give themselves happiness through things outside of themselves that's not really able to give them true happiness, because true happiness only comes from within you. Your happiness comes from you, from your divine self. So now we're going to move forward. And we're going to talk about incarnation and resurrection. Incarnation and resurrection. Jesus says, I was proclaimed to be the Word incarnate. That means I was proclaimed to be the union of the human and the divine, the manifestation of the will of God. I have told you that you are no different than I was. One of the things that always fascinated me, because I grew up Southern Baptist, I grew up in the South, was that whenever I would check out the New Testament or check out the Bible for myself, I was always surprised at how much Jesus would say that everything that he was doing, we could do it too. That Jesus always claimed that we had the same powers and abilities available to us that he had. That Jesus was not coming from a place of superiority. He kept referring to himself like you would refer to an elder brother who's able to accomplish more than a younger brother could. But of course, the truth teaches that one of the things that the Course in Miracles says that's really interesting to me is that the ego, the part of the mind that tries to deceive us, always adds something that's not true to the truth. So on the one hand, the Bible would say that Jesus said, according to our faith, it could be done to us, and that we had these incredible powers and abilities that we could use that was equal to the powers and abilities that he had. But then we also heard the fearful stuff of condemnation and hell. So that was adding the false to the true. And now, A Course of Love is telling us that he says, I call you to be no different than I am. I'm calling you to be no different than I am. You and I are the same. We're going from a level of consciousness that's always teaching us that we're totally different from each other. We're going to a level of consciousness that's telling us that we're totally the same and we're totally united in each other. We all have the same spiritual powers. Then A Course of Love says, as a man I suffered, died, and was buried. But what's the key phrase? As a man. As a man I suffered. As a man I died. As a man I was buried. Now, as I truly am, as who I am, I resurrected. I am the resurrection and the life. Do you know that you're going through a resurrection right now? You're having a resurrection right now. What I was in life was the manifestation in form, in the body, of the will of God. And thus too have you been. So listen to this. I'll say this one more time. What you are in life is a manifestation in the body of the will of God. You are the will of God manifested in a body. You are the will of God manifested in a form. You are the will of God. You are the will of love. You are the will of the Creator. You are God's will manifested. You are God's will manifested in a form. I am God's will manifested in a form called Earl Purdy. I am God's will manifested in a body called Earl Purdy. You are God's will. You are God's will. And you are God's will manifested. You are God's will. You are God's will. You are God's will. You are God's will manifested in form. That's what you are. You are God. I am God. Everything you see is God. Everything you don't see is God, is love, is the Creator. You are the will of the Creator. You are the will of God. And you are the will of God manifested in a body. You are the will of God manifested. Now, what is God? God is the giver of life. And so life is God's will. You are alive because it's God's will that you be alive. Your very life is God's will. Your very life is God's will. And then it says, but with my resurrection, which was accomplished for all, including us, the meaning of life, the reality of life changed, though you have known this not. So with the resurrection of the part of us called Jesus, with the resurrection of that part of us, which is us, because everything is one, nothing is divided, then this reality has changed. The great experiment in separation ended with the resurrection of Jesus. And I know that for some of you, as soon as you hear me here say resurrection, or anytime you hear me say Jesus, it's a total turn off for some of you. I'm sorry. This is a course of love. A course of love is channel material. The channel material claims to be Jesus teaching us at a brand new level, and that's just the fact of the material. So your reaction, you are responsible for that. But I'm not going to pretend that the book isn't what the book is, just so I don't upset you. Because it's a book that's called A Course of Love. It's not a course of what you learned as a child. It's not a course of what you went through as a child through the religious upbringing you had. That's bringing the past into the present. So this is a course of love. We're in another reality. Jesus is trying to communicate to us that because of that resurrection, that was the great experiment in separation ending, because the resurrection and the life are now one and the same. You are resurrection, so you are life. So life itself is a resurrection. Life itself is a resurrection. Your life 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 is a resurrection.
I am responsible for what I see. Yeah, I am responsible for what I say. I am responsible for what I say. Say I am responsible for what I say. And everything that seems to happen to me, well, I ask for it. Yeah, I ask for it. I choose the feelings that I experience. Yeah, I choose the feelings that I experience. I choose the feelings that I experience. Yeah, I choose the feelings that I experience. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for it. Yeah, I ask for it.
So your life is resurrection. In this very moment, you are feeling and experiencing resurrection. You're right, Anne. A Course of Love, this entire life, your human experience is a course of love. Exactly. That's right, Kathy. You asked to experience this tonight. And Claire, you're correct. You are life, resurrected in this body. I'm looking at the comments as they come up on the screen. So, life and resurrection are the same, has not meant the automatic realization of this change of enormous proportions. We haven't had an automatic realization that we've had an enormous change. The very nature of change is a nature of slow realization. We do slow realization. In case you haven't noticed, we do slow realization. The very nature of change is of slow realization. Change occurs around you all day long without you even realizing it. Things are changing around you right now without you even realizing it. It's only when you look back on things, sometimes it's only in retrospect, are the greatest changes seen. Sometimes it's when you, like if you were to look back and compare the way that you are now and the way that you look at things now to, let's say, 10 years ago, then you get more of a realization of just how much you've changed. And so the understanding of the truth of a historical event changes over time. When we look back over the teachings of Jesus, when we look back over other great spiritual teachings, the understanding of the truth that was taught, that changes over time. And sometimes it takes 100 or 1,000 or even 2,000 years for the real truth of something that happened to be realized. Even though many versions of the truth have been accepted previously, even though everybody's got their own version of the truth, what they call my truth. I have my truth. Well, the truth is, there is no such thing as your truth. There is one truth. I didn't say that there was just one path, so don't misperceive what I'm saying. I'm not doing that old thing of saying my way is the only way or this way is the only way. I'm saying there is only one truth. Like, for instance, there's only one gravity on Earth, but people can describe that gravity in many different languages, in many different ways. They can come up on the realization of what gravity is through many different ways, but there's still only one gravity. So there's only one truth. But there are many different ways of looking at it. And so when most people say, I have my truth, they are just talking about they have their perception of truth. They have their perception and way of looking at things. But there's just one truth. There was only one truth at the time the event or the major change took place, which means there is only one truth in time or eternity, regardless of the variety of interpretations of the truth. Do you know that there is only one truth in time or eternity, regardless of the variety of interpretations of the truth? So I have come to you when? Right now. To do what? To reveal the one truth that has existed for the past 2,000 years without your comprehension of it. When you resurrect, when you know yourself as the true life that you truly are, and knowing yourself as the true life of who you really are means knowing yourself beyond your concepts, knowing yourself beyond your beliefs, knowing yourself beyond your past learnings, knowing yourself beyond your opinions, knowing yourself beyond your self-images, knowing yourself beyond who you think you are and was taught you are. When you know yourself, the nature of yourself, the nature of life has changed for you. I am the resurrection and the life. Do you know that you, yes, I'm talking about you, Earl, you mighty companion, you are the resurrection. You are the life. You are the resurrection. You are the life. You are the resurrection. So, as I no longer suffer the separation, you need no longer suffer from separation. You don't need to suffer from feeling separate from love. You don't need to continue to suffer because you feel separate from everything around you. You don't need to suffer because you feel separate from life. You don't need to suffer because you feel separate from your abundance and from your connection to all that is. Even though the separation returned not life to the form I once occupied, the resurrection returned me to you in the form of the resurrected Christ, which is the real self, the resurrected Christ, which is the real self, the one love who exists in all of us. The resurrected Christ exists in you. The resurrected Christ exists in me. That means the resurrected true self, the resurrected love self exists in both of us. So it's bringing resurrection into all of our bodies, love into all of our bodies, life into all of our bodies. I became the Word, Jesus says, I became the Word incarnate upon my resurrection rather than upon my birth. You are becoming the living truth right now, not just because you were born. You are becoming the living truth right now because you now are a living example of what life truly is and the truth about life. Now, I know this will seem confusing given your definition of incarnation as the Word made flesh. And many people took this to mean that flesh took on the definition of the Word, or the Almighty when I became flesh and bone through birth. But neither my birth, Jesus says, nor my death in the course of love was consequent with the Word, as the Word is I am. The Word is life eternal. When it says you are the Word, it's saying you are eternal life. Do you know that you have a life that is eternal? You have a life that continues even after the body is laid down in what we may call death. If you're ready to go to the next level, take a breath and be willing to hear what I'm saying. Some of you are not going to be ready to hear what I'm saying. And some of you are going to have a ton of resistance that make you turn this video off and don't listen to anything else that I'm saying. And I love you and I bless you. That's perfectly okay. But those of you who are on the same page that I'm on right now, those of you that are hearing what I'm saying right now, and it is inspirational to you, you are the one that the message is for. You are the ones that this message is for. I'm not here to convert. I'm not here to convince. I'm not here to try to change anybody's mind. I'm here to be a messenger of God for those people who what comes through me, the way it comes through me, resonates with them. And that is what your function is as a demonstrator of God and truth. There will be people in your life that will be sent to you that the way the truth comes through you, the way that love comes through you is perfect for them from their level of understanding. And that's the way that we resurrect each other. It isn't about trying to convince someone who thinks that what you believe is crazy. It's not about spending 2 seconds trying to change their mind, because it's okay for them to be where they are. Trust that the God in them will take them in the direction that they need to go in order to recognize the one truth. And that's what I feel as a facilitator and a teacher. I never come online with the idea of trying to convince or debate or convert. I'm a messenger. I come to deliver the message that's coming through me from a course of love that's coming through the course of love and then through me to you. And those who are attuned to the way that it comes through me, they will receive the blessing of that in a way that's inspirational and peaceful to them. And that's the way it is for you. There are people, more people than you could ever get to, who need you just the way you are. There are more people out there who need you and who would love you and who would be blessed through you, who already love you and appreciate you the way you are. That's how you can tell that they were sent by Spirit, because they will not be saying to you, if you were different, I would be happy. If you were different, I could listen to you. If you were different, then I would be happy. That is what the ego would say to you, because that's someone who thinks that their happiness is dependent ultimately on you and your behavior. So you who have come after me are not as I was, Jesus says in the course of love, but you that come after me are as I am. So what is Jesus saying? Well, Jesus is saying you are the same. We are all love. We are all children of the Creator. We are all unlimited awareness and consciousness and spiritual beings. We all have creative power. So does this not make sense? Even in your human terms of evolution, you are the resurrected. You are the resurrected and the life. So how does this relate to your thinking? How does this relate to your thinking? That means you have been reborn as God-man, or you could say you have been reborn as God-woman. You have been reborn as God and man united. So what does that mean? It means the resurrection is the cause and effect of the union of the human and divine. When your human nature merges and joins with your divine nature, you are resurrected. You are resurrected right now. This is accomplished. Your resurrection is accomplished. You are a merged entity of the divine and the human. This is in effect the way in which the man Jesus became the Christ. This is in effect the way. Now, how could one man's resurrection be the way, or how could one man's resurrection be a way? How can resurrection provide a path? How can resurrection provide an example for you to follow? You must see the link between resurrection and incarnation. That means you must see the link between resurrection and the birth of the God-man. The heart and mind joined in union is the resurrection. Your heart and your mind joined in union, not fighting each other, is the resurrection. The heart and mind joined in union accomplish the reunion of the separated self with God. So if I want to go to a conscious relationship with my connection to my source, the heart and the mind joined in union must be accomplished. The resurrection was evidence of this accomplishment. The resurrection laid aside the claim of death, and with it the claim of all that's temporary. So what does that mean? It means that the resurrection, the recognition of life after death, the recognition that we are more than bodies, that is what should have made us aware that we are not ruled by anything that's temporary. What we are goes beyond anything that begins and ends. Your body is temporary. Everything in your perception is temporary, but you are not. You are not temporary. You are not temporary. You are not temporary. You, who you really are, is not temporary. But everything in the world of perception, everything you physically sense, everything you physically see is temporary. What I'm hearing is you can do everything you will never make the temporary permanent. You will never make anything of that's physical and of the physical senses in the form that it is be eternal. Now, what's behind the form is eternal. What the form is made of ultimately is eternal. But there is nothing that you experience with your physical senses that is eternal. But you are. You are. So the resurrection was witnessed as the proof required, much as proof has been offered to you now in the form of miracles. So how could one rise from death and everybody else not rise from death? How could one being live after death and resurrect unless that's true for all of us? That was the whole thing of Jesus being an example. All it meant was, I am love. Love never ends. Love can never be destroyed. You are love. Love never ends. Love can never be destroyed. Truth is real. Truth can never be destroyed. That's the example. So, illusion is the death you need but arise from. So, not knowing what's true, that is death. Not being aware of your true nature, that is death. So, what should you do now? You should arise. You should arise and awaken to your resurrected self. Wake up to your resurrected self. Wake up to your resurrected self. There is no longer a Godhead for you to follow to paradise. Don't take the example of any of these and know instead the example of woman, of Mary, mother of God. What is a mother? What is a mother but she who incarnates? What is a mother but she who makes spirit flesh through her own flesh, makes flesh and spirit and flesh through union? That's what you have in your version of creation. You made it necessary for woman to join with man in order for a new life to come forth. Is but another example of how your memory of creation was made to serve what you would have come to be. The separated self could not exist in separation, and so a way in which other separated forms could come into existence and live with you in separation. In other words, that you recognize union as a prerequisite to creation is proof of your memory's tenacity and the failure of illusion to completely rid you of what you know. The fact that we think we need to join, that two beings have to join in order to create another being, is letting us know that it is through joining, that it is through connecting, that creation and resurrection happens. Sex is just a reminder of the power of joining to create. So, the virgin birth was thus a necessary step in the reclaiming of the real act of creation, which is the bringing forth of the new through union with the divine self. It is time for you to bring forth what's new through uniting with your own divine self. You're used to feeling connected to your human self. Now that same level of identification, Earl, has to start happening with your divine self. You must join with your divine self, identify with your divine self, come to know your divine self at the same level of, and more actually, than you are doing with your human self. So whether you believe the virgin birth was reality or whether you believe the virgin birth was a myth, it doesn't matter. And reality have no concrete distinction in the reality within which you live. In other words, you live as much by myth as you live by truth. And myth actually often accurately reflects the truth that myth actually reflects the truth a lot of times more than what you call real. This is not a call, however, to embrace myth. What we're doing tonight is we're being called to embrace the truth. So Mary is called upon now as the myth to end all myths. For in this example, life alone is the key to the riddle provided. So what the heck am I saying? Don't analyze this, don't analyze this, don't analyze this, don't analyze this. Listen, I'm about to say it in another way. There's no need to analyze this. A Course of Love is about to say this in another way. There's no need for you to analyze. If you're still around, there's no need for you to analyze this. You are each called to return to your virgin state. I'm asking you to become a virgin again, to a state unaltered by separation. I'm asking you to return to a state in which what is begotten through union with God. It is from this unaltered state, your connection with God, your connection with love, that's the state that allows you to be free to resurrect as I resurrected. It is through the blessed Virgin Mary, which represents resurrection in form, resurrection of the union with you and the divine. That's the new pattern of life that's being revealed to you right now. So what is the new pattern of life? It's the ability to resurrect in the body, to be a living example of the divine in the body. The ability to resurrect being in the now moment and not seeing yourself as how you saw yourself in the past or trying to project yourself into what you're going to be in the future. So thus is the glory that is yours is going to be returned to you in life rather than in death. The glory that you are is going to be returned in life rather than in death. Take a breath. You are the resurrection and the life. You are the resurrection and the life. You are the resurrection and the life. You are the resurrection and the life, and you are responsible for how you hear what I'm saying. You are responsible. I decide upon the goal that I would achieve. I decide upon the goal that I would achieve. I decide upon the goal that I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for it. I ask for it. I am responsible for what I see. You the resurrection and the life. Say, I am the resurrection and the life. I am the resurrection and the life. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for it. By how I see things, I ask for it. So the male provided the manifestation or the effect of the cause created by the female in the virgin birth. My mother Mary was responsible for the incarnation of Christ in me, as I am responsible for the incarnation of Christ in you. This union of the male and female is but the union of the parts of yourself expressed in form and story, expressed, in other words, in a visual pattern that aids your understanding of the invisible. It is one more demonstration of the union that returns you to your natural state, which means it is one more demonstration of cause and effect being one in truth. Cause and effect are one. Giving and receiving are the same. All that I give is given to myself. All that you give is given to yourself. It is one more demonstration of what needs to occur right now in this time in order for the truth of the resurrection to be revealed and lived. So what have we talked about so far? What we talked about so far is uniting your heart and your mind. Lest you think that this union is not all encompassing, we will reflect a moment here on how the art of thinking, the art of thought brings all you have seen as parts of yourself, such as male and female, conception and action, inspiration and manifestation. All of it's now being brought together into the wholehearted. You are now resurrecting. You are now uniting your mind and your heart. You are now being led by your heart. You are now getting in touch, merging with your divine self. You are now going beyond the perception of yourself as just being a human being. You are now going beyond the perception that you have to suffer, that's necessary in order for you to learn and to grow. You are now recognizing that you have resurrected. You are the life. You are awesome. So, I am so glad that you joined me tonight on A Course of Love, that we resurrected together. I'm glad we had a great resurrection. I love having a great resurrection, and I had that with you tonight. I would love it, and I would appreciate it from the bottom of my heart if you felt moved to share a financial expression of appreciation, as I am a full-time teacher. And if you'd like to support this teaching ministry, go to earlpurdy.com, earlpurdy.com. I am available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions. Go to my website. We can work together on a one-on-one to get past any blocks that you have. This music is John Christmas. It was johnChristmas.com. So go to johnChristmas.com for this music. If you'd like to know more about A Course of Love, go to acourseoflove.org on the web. So at 1 o'clock Mountain Time on Sundays, I do A Course in Miracles on Facebook Live. On 7 p.m. on Tuesdays, at Mountain Time, I do The Way of Mastery. And of course, on Thursdays, I do A Course of Love. Check it all out. One teaching may appeal to you more than the other. Remember what I said. There's only one truth, but there are many ways to approach that truth. So I love there were such great comments today. You're welcome, Ann. So let's hear. And remember, when you hear you are responsible, I am responsible for what I see, it's the same as saying I am responsible for how I see. And you are the resurrection. You are the life. That's who you really are. You are now going to a whole new level of learning. You're going to a whole nother level of consciousness. That's where you are right now. You are being reached at a level that's beyond anything that you've been reached through before. There is only one truth in time or eternity, regardless of the various interpretations of the truth. Listen to this one more time.
I am responsible.
You are responsible.
I am responsible
For how no need for you to suffer. There is no need for you to learn through suffering. There is no need for you to learn through suffering. There is no need for you to learn through suffering. I say all the good that happens to you, and all the good that happens to me, and all the good that happens to you, and all the good that happens to us, all the good that happens to us, we ask for it. We ask for it. I am responsible. I love you, mighty companion. I appreciate you, mighty companions. You are awesome. Yes.